Sahih al-Bukhari loans, payment of loans, freezing of property, bankruptcy. Sahih al-Bukhari, loans, payment of loans, freezing of property, bankruptcy. Narrated Habir bin Abdullah. While I was in the company of the Prophet in one of his ghazawat, he asked, "What is wrong with your camel? Will you sell it?" I replied in the affirmative and sold it to him. When he reached Medina, I took the camel to him in the morning and he paid me its price. Sahih al-Bukhari 2385 Reference 43 Hadith 1. Sahih al-Bukhari, loans, payment of loans, freezing of property, bankruptcy. Narrated al-Amash. When we were with Ibrahim, we talked about mortgaging in deals of salam. Ibrahim narrated from Aswad that Aisha had said, "The Prophet bought some foodstuff on credit from a Jew and mortgaged an iron armor to him." Sahih al-Bukhari 2386 Reference 43 Hadith 2. Sahih al-Bukhari, loans, payment of loans, freezing of property, bankruptcy. Narrated Abu Huraira. The Prophet said, "Whoever takes the money of the people with the intention of repaying it, Allah will repay it on his behalf, and whoever takes it in order to spoil it, then Allah will spoil him." Sahih al-Bukhari 2387 Reference 43 Hadith 3. Sahih al-Bukhari, loans, payment of loans, freezing of property, bankruptcy. Narrated Abu Dar. Once, while I was in the company of the Prophet, he saw the mountain of Uhud and said, "I would not like to have this mountain turned into gold for me unless nothing of it, not even a single dinar, remains of it with me for more than 3 days. That is, I will spend all of it in Allah's cause, except that dinar which I will keep for repaying debts." Then he said, "Those who are rich in this world would have little reward in the hereafter except those who spend their money here and there, in Allah's cause, and they are few in number." Then he ordered me to stay at my place and went not far away. I heard a voice and intended to go to him, but I remembered his order, "Stay at your place till I return." On his return I said, "O Allah's Messenger, what was that noise which I heard?" He said, "Did you hear anything?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Gabriel came and said to me, 'Whoever amongst your followers dies, worshipping none along with Allah, will enter paradise.'" I said, "Even if he did such and such." Sahih al-Bukhari 2388 Reference 43 Hadith 4. Sahih al-Bukhari, loans, payment of loans, freezing of property, bankruptcy. Things, that is, even if he stole or committed illegal sexual intercourse, he said, "Yes." Sahih al-Bukhari 2388 Reference 43 Hadith 4. Sahih al-Bukhari, loans, payment of loans, freezing of property, bankruptcy. Narrated Abu Huraira. Allah's Messenger said, "If I had gold equal to the mountain of Uhud, it would not please me that it should remain with me for more than 3 days, except an amount which I would keep for repaying debts." Sahih al-Bukhari 2389 Reference 43 Hadith 5. Sahih al-Bukhari, loans, payment of loans, freezing of property, bankruptcy. Narrated Abu Huraira. A man demanded his debts from Allah's Messenger in such a rude manner that the companions of the Prophet intended to harm him, but the Prophet said, "Leave him, no doubt, for he, the creditor, has the right to demand it, harshly. Buy a camel and give it to him." They said, "The camel that is available is older than the camel he demands." The Prophet said, "Buy it and give it to him, for the best among you are those who repay their debts handsomely." Sahih al-Bukhari 2390 Reference 43 Hadith 6. Sahih al-Bukhari, loans, payment of loans, freezing of property, bankruptcy. Narrated Hudhayfa. I heard the Prophet saying, "Once a man died and was asked, 'What did you used to say, or do, in your lifetime?' He replied, I was a businessman and used to give time to the rich to repay his debt and used to deduct part of the debt of the poor. So he was forgiven his sins. Abu Mas'ud said, I heard the same hadith from the Prophet. Sahih al-Bukhari 2391 reference 43 hadith 7. Sahih al-Bukhari, loans, payment of loans, freezing of property, bankruptcy narrated Abu Huraira. A man came to the Prophet and demanded a camel. The Prophet owed him. Allah's messenger told his companions to give him a camel. They said, we do not find except an older camel than what he demands. The Prophet ordered them to give him that camel. The man said, you have paid me in full and may Allah also pay you in full. Allah's messenger said, give him, for the best amongst the people is he who repays his debts in the most handsome manner. Sahih al-Bukhari 2392 reference 43 hadith 8. Sahih al-Bukhari, loans, payment of loans, freezing of property, bankruptcy narrated Abu Huraira. The Prophet owed a camel of a certain age to a man who came to demand it back. The Prophet ordered his companions to give him. They looked for a camel of the same age but found nothing but a camel 1 year older. The Prophet told them to give it to him. The man said, you have paid me in full, and may Allah pay you in full. The Prophet said, the best amongst you is he who pays his debts in the most handsome manner. Sahih al-Bukhari 2393 reference 43 hadith 9. Sahih al-Bukhari, loans, payment of loans, freezing of property, bankruptcy narrated Habir bin Abdullah. I went to the Prophet while he was in the mosque. Mas'ar thinks that Habir went in the forenoon. After the Prophet told me to pray 2 rakat, he repaid me the debt he owed me and gave me an extra amount. Sahih al-Bukhari 2394 reference 43 hadith 10. Sahih al-Bukhari, loans, payment of loans, freezing of property, bankruptcy narrated Habir bin Abdullah. My father was martyred on the day of the battle of Uhud, and he was in debt. His creditors demanded their rights persistently. I went to the Prophet and informed him about it. He told them to take the fruits of my garden and exempt my father from the debts, but they refused to do so. So, the Prophet did not give them my garden and told me that he would come to me the next morning. He came to us early in the morning and wandered among the date palms and invoked Allah to bless their fruits. I then plucked the dates and paid the creditors, and there remained some of the dates for us. Sahih al-Bukhari 2395 reference 43 hadith 11. Sahih al-Bukhari, loans, payment of loans, freezing of property, bankruptcy narrated Habir bin Abdullah. When my father died he owed a Jew 30 awsaq of dates. I requested him to give me respite for repaying, but he refused. I requested Allah's messenger to intercede with the Jew. Allah's messenger went to the Jew and asked him to accept the fruits of my trees in place of the debt, but the Jew refused. Allah's apostle entered the garden of the date palms, wandering among the trees, and ordered me, saying, pluck the fruits, and give him his due. So, I plucked the fruits for him after the departure of Allah's apostle and gave his 30 awsaq, and still had 17 awsaq extra for myself. Habir said, I went to Allah's messenger to inform of what had happened, but found him praying the Asr prayer. After the prayer I told him about the extra fruits which remained. Allah's messenger told me to inform Umar ibn al-Khattab about it. When I went to Umar and told him about it, Umar said, when Allah's messenger walked in your garden, I was sure that Allah would. Sahih al-Bukhari 2396 reference 43 hadith 12. Sahih al-Bukhari, loans, payment of loans, freezing of property, bankruptcy definitely bless it. Sahih al-Bukhari 2396 reference 43 Hadith 12. Sahih al-Bukhari, loans, payment of loans, freezing of property, bankruptcy narrated Aisha. Allah's Messenger used to invoke Allah in the prayer saying, O Allah, I seek refuge with you from all sins, and from being in debt. Someone said, O Allah's Messenger, I see you. Very often you seek refuge with Allah from being in debt. He replied, if a person is in debt, he tells lies when he speaks, and breaks his promises when he promises. Sahih al-Bukhari 2397 reference 43 Hadith 13. Sahih al-Bukhari, loans, payment of loans, freezing of property, bankruptcy narrated Abu Huraira. The Prophet said, if someone leaves some property, it will be for the inheritors, and if he leaves some weak offspring, it will be for us to support them. Sahih al-Bukhari 2398 reference 43 Hadith 14. Sahih al-Bukhari, loans, payment of loans, freezing of property, bankruptcy narrated Abu Huraira. The Prophet said, I am closer to the believers than themselves in this world and in the hereafter, and if you like, you can read Allah's statement. The Prophet is closer to the believers than their own selves. 33.6 So, if a true believer dies and leaves behind some property, it will be for his inheritors, from the father's side, and if he leaves behind some debt to be paid or needy offspring, then they should come to me as I am the guardian of the deceased. Sahih al-Bukhari 2399 reference 43 Hadith 15. Sahih al-Bukhari, loans, payment of loans, freezing of property, bankruptcy narrated Abu Huraira. Allah's Messenger said, procrastination, delay, in repaying debts by a wealthy person is injustice. Sahih al-Bukhari 2400 reference 43 Hadith 16. Sahih al-Bukhari, loans, payment of loans, freezing of property, bankruptcy narrated Abu Huraira. A man came to the Prophet and demanded his debts and used harsh words. The companions of the Prophet wanted to harm him, but the Prophet said, leave him, as the creditor, owner of the right, has the right to speak. Sahih al-Bukhari 2401 reference 43 Hadith 17. Sahih al-Bukhari, loans, payment of loans, freezing of property, bankruptcy narrated Abu Huraira. Allah's Messenger said, if a man finds his very things with a bankrupt, he has more right to take them back than anyone else. Sahih al-Bukhari 2402 reference 43 Hadith 18. Sahih al-Bukhari, loans, payment of loans, freezing of property, bankruptcy narrated Habir bin Abdullah. A man pledged that his slave would be manumitted after his death. The Prophet asked, who will buy the slave from me? Nuaym bin Abdullah bought the slave and the Prophet took its price and gave it to the owner. Sahih al-Bukhari 2403 reference 43 Hadith 19. Sahih al-Bukhari, loans, payment of loans, freezing of property, bankruptcy narrated Abu Huraira. Allah's Messenger mentioned an Israeli man who asked another Israeli to lend him money, and the latter gave it to him for a fixed period. Abu Huraira mentioned the rest of narration. See chapter Kafala in Loans and Debts. Hadith 2291, Sahih al-Bukhari 2404 reference 43 Hadith 20. Sahih al-Bukhari, loans, payment of loans, freezing of property, bankruptcy narrated Habir. When Abdullah, my father, died, he left behind children and debts. I asked the lenders to put down some of his debt, but they refused, so I went to the Prophet to intercede with them, yet they refused. The Prophet said to me, classify your dates into their different kinds. Adha bin Zayd, lean and ajwa, each kind alone, and call all the creditors and wait till I come to you. I did so, and the Prophet came and sat beside the dates and started measuring to each his due till he paid them fully, and the amount of dates remained as it was before, as if he had not touched them. On another occasion, I took part in one of Ghazawat among with the Prophet, and I was riding one of our camels. The camel got tired and was lagging behind the others. The Prophet hit it on its back. He said, sell it to me, and you have the right to ride it till Medina. When we approached Medina, I took the permission from the Prophet to go to my house, saying, O Allah's Messenger, I have newly married. Sahih al-Bukhari 2405, 2406 reference 43 Hadith 21. Sahih al-Bukhari, loans, payment of loans, freezing of property, bankruptcy. The Prophet asked, have you married a virgin or a matron, a widow or divorcee? I said, I have married a matron, as Abdullah, my father, died and left behind daughters small in their ages, so I married a matron who may teach them and bring them up with good manners. The Prophet then said to me, go to your family. When I went there and told my maternal uncle about the selling of the camel, he admonished me for it. On that I told him about its slowness and exhaustion, and about what the Prophet had done to the camel and his hitting it. When the Prophet arrived, I went to him with the camel in the morning, and he gave me its price, the camel itself, and my share from the war booty as he gave the other people. Sahih al-Bukhari 2405, 2406 reference 43 Hadith 21. Sahih al-Bukhari, loans, payment of loans, freezing of property, bankruptcy. Narrated Ibn Umar. A man came to the Prophet and said, I am often betrayed in bargaining. The Prophet advised him, when you buy something, say to the seller, no deception. The man used to say so afterwards. Sahih al-Bukhari 2407 reference 43 Hadith 22. Sahih al-Bukhari, loans, payment of loans, freezing of property, bankruptcy. Narrated al-Mughira bin Shu'bah. The Prophet said, Allah has forbidden for you, 1. To be undutiful to your mothers. 2. To bury your daughters alive. 3. To not to pay the rights of the others, e.g. charity, etc. And 4. To beg of men, begging. And Allah has hated for you, 1. Vain, useless talk, or that you talk too much about others. 2. To ask too many questions, in disputed religious matters. And 3. To waste the wealth, by extravagance. Sahih al-Bukhari 2408 reference 43 Hadith 23. Sahih al-Bukhari, loans, payment of loans, freezing of property, bankruptcy. Narrated Abdullah bin Umar. I heard Allah's Messenger saying, every one of you is a guardian, and responsible for what is in his custody. The ruler is a guardian of his subjects and responsible for them. A husband is a guardian of his family and is responsible for it. A lady is a guardian of her husband's house and is responsible for it, and a servant is a guardian of his master's property and is responsible for it. I heard that from Allah's Messenger, and I think that the Prophet also said, a man is a guardian of his father's property and is responsible for it. So all of you are guardians and responsible for your wards and things under your care. Sahih al-Bukhari 2409 reference 43 Hadith 24.